So Larry Yeager here at Yeager Cycle, and I thought I would show you how to remove the fuel tank on a Harley-Davidson Pan America, which some people have a little trouble with. So we'll get to that next. I have got over here the necessary tools that's required to remove the fuel tank on a Pan America. I'm going to make this as simple as possible and as quick as possible for you, okay? I've done this enough times, it's gotten easier and easier. You know, the first time took 30 minutes to get the tank off. Next time took 15 minutes. The next time it took 5 minutes. So it just got faster and faster because I kind of got more comfortable with it and understood how it worked, how the wire clips work, and those kind of things. So I've got the necessary tools, which is just a few, okay? You need a 27 Torx. You need a 10mm socket, and I don't do anything by hand. I always have an electric tool. You need a 13mm wrench. You need a pair of needle nose, right there, a small needle nose. I like to have a kind of a long, skinny, small screwdriver to help undo the clip underneath of the fuel tank. And then a little bit of silicone seal, a little bit of silicone lubricant helps to in the installation going back together with it, okay? So anyway, that's basically the tools you need. So I'm gonna get started here on what we gotta do. First thing, obviously, is remove the seats. Take the passenger seat off. Take the driver's seat off. My motorcycle doesn't get washed underneath the seat very often, so it's kind of dirty underneath there. And I choose to take off these little air wings right here instead of taking this tank bolt out. These are in the way when you're trying to get the fuel pump wire off. So it's just a whole lot easier to remove these. I'll show you what I do. There are 27 Torx. So you do that and that little heat deflector just comes right off of there. Okay, got both of them off. Next thing I do is I take the nose fairing off, get it out of the way. I do that so I can give myself some room to get to the fuel tank vent tube, which just pulls out. Just give it a pull. It comes right out of the rubber line, vent line, which is right down there. And then we have a small connector. And I'm going to pull it apart, and then I will show you how it comes apart. So what you want to do is you want to take your screwdriver and push that down. I don't know if you've seen that or not. So if you push that lock down, that unlocks it. And then it will just pull apart. I say it pulls apart. There we go. So then that's all loose. Then there's two front tank bolts. One that comes up from the bottom. There's little holes on the bottom of the fuel tank. One right here, one on the other side in the same spot. It's a little tricky to get them. A lot of times I'll take my socket and find the head of the bolt. There it is, long 6mm bolt. Same thing on the other side. This one's at a little different angle. Take him out just like that. So now the tank is unbolted. Nothing is securing it any longer. We'll come around to this side. We'll lift this guy up. Oh, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I forgot. We're going to take the fuel line loose at the throttle body. So take this little 1250 cover off. It's just on rubber grommets. Just pull him off. And then we're going to take the fuel line off. And the way you do this is I push the fuel line in and I push this chrome release in. I don't know if you can see that or not. Push that in and then you pull the fuel line out, just like that. It's just that easy to pull the fuel line loose. Okay, then, now that gives you plenty of slack to pull that tank up. And this is probably the hardest part to do. I'm going to undo it and I'll show you once I get it off. There's a release, and then you pull the fuel pump wire off. All right, so now that I got that loose, and I'll show you how I did that once I get this tank off. I grabbed the tank, and of course I just filled this sucker last night, so it probably weighs about 50 pounds. Set him off to the side. And there you have it. So let me show you how this wire release works. This little snap right here, that is the lock position. So you pull this down and then you push that in, that right there, and it pulls right off. That's all there is to it. Once it's released, it takes no effort to get it off. And I'm telling you, if you're pulling on it and it's not coming off, you just don't have it released yet. So just do it a couple times and get him loose. So to get the fuel tank off, that's all there is to it. Now, as you probably know, there's a lot of things to do under the fuel tank. So you need to get familiar with taking it off. There's your air cleaner underneath there. If you want to do any additional lighting or any GPS wiring, if you're going to do it neatly, it all runs underneath of the fuel tank and you strap it all to the frame. So there's a lot of reasons. Clutch adjustment is another reason why you need to take the fuel tank off. All right, so now that we've performed whatever maintenance that we wanted to do under our fuel tank, whether it be the air cleaner maintenance or whether it be adding some additional lighting or whatever it is, now that we've performed that job, adjusted the clutch cable, and it's finished, then I'm ready for reassembly, okay? So what I'll do is I'll grab my silicone spray, which is really handy to have. I'll hit my grommets for the fairing. Makes them a little easier. I will also hit the fuel tank vent tube, which is right here. That helps that vent tube to slide back down in there a little bit easier. And then I will also hit the grommets for the little cover over the fuel where the line goes in. And I will also hit right where the fuel line goes in. That helps that thing slide in there a little easier. All of those, especially the fuel line, it is a small O-ring, and if it's dry or dirty or whatever and you push that line in there, you run the risk of tearing that little O-ring. So it's I always just hit it with silicone spray right quick and call it good. Then I'll grab my fuel tank, and again, it's full of fuel, so it's heavy. If I'd have been thinking, I wouldn't have filled it up last night. And I set the tank on there, kind of direct the venting and the fuel gauge wires kind of down where they're supposed to be in the neighborhood. just like that. I leave it propped up. One little tip I'll tell you that's not too bad is to have a 2x4 or a 2x6 in here to kind of hold that up. Now, the next thing you want to do is you want to take your fuel line, and I would advise you to kind of look down this hole behind the air box to see where that fuel line routing goes, so you kind of know. And what I always do is I start that thing kind of in the neighborhood, kind of like that, okay? And then I will swing over. If I get it started in the neighborhood, then I will take my fuel pump wire and I will install that guy, and do not, I repeat, do not forget to do that. I have done that, and it's very aggravating. And put it right up in there, and then you snap the holder in place. And I always, oh, I'm glad I did. I didn't get it in place. Tug on it, make sure it doesn't come off, and which it did. There we go. The truth is, once you get it in place, you hear it snap. Then you snap the lock in place. Then set the tank down, come around to the other side. And what I always do is I will kind of stick my finger up in here and grab the end of that fuel line and feed it down through that little passage. There's not much there. You can take the line off at the tank as well, but I'm always nervous about it. It's a plastic fitting and it's hard to get to, and I'm always nervous I'm going to break that plastic fitting off of that fuel pump. So I've got it out. You can see my line sticking out there now. Okay, I'm going to connect that guy, and you connect it in reverse of what you did to take it off. Push this in, push that guy in, push fuel in there and release that. Give it a tug, make sure you got it stuck, okay? So then my next thing I do is I put the front tank bolts in. I just start them. I don't tighten any of them. I just get them started. And put that bolt up in there, kind of wiggle the tank around, and you'll find it. It's kind of tricky. One thing you don't want to do is cross thread that bolt in the bottom of a $1,500 gas tank, I promise you. So make sure you get it right. That's why I'm doing it by hand instead of, and then I go like that to make sure I got the bolt started, okay? And then we're gonna go around to the other side, do the same thing. The one on the left side is pretty vertical. The one on the right side is about a 45-degree angle. Once you do it, you'll see what I'm talking about. So get the bolt up in there, move the tank, then that bolt. The bolt is kind of pointed on the end, so it does a nice job itself of finding the hole, the threaded hole. And I've got it started because it's not going up, okay? The next thing I'll do is I'll put my heat deflectors on. I'll start those bolts before I tighten anything down. So we'll take this guy, and this one bolt on the inside is a little tricky. It's got a little passage right there that you can put your T-handle down in. And start that one. Once you get that started, and this one's a piece of cake. And again, I don't tighten it, I just snug it. And if you notice, I never did take that bolt out. I just leave it right in place. Then we'll do the heat deflector on the other side. Okay, once them are tight, or they're snug, then I tighten the front bolts. Get my trusty 1/4" drive Milwaukee. So that side is tight. That side is tight. Tighten my 27 Torx. I don't know why I got a stick underneath my seat. Okay, so that's tight. So those are tight. The tank bolts are tight. I'm going to put my cover back on. Pops right on there. And the next thing I got to do is my fuel pump, or no, my fuel gauge wire and my fuel tank vent. Okay, that's what my needle nose are for. So I'm going to come around to the side. I would pay attention to the routing of this stuff before you take it off. It just kind of sneaks down behind here. And you can kind of see. Let me get it out here. Okay, there it is right there. So there's my tank vent, and there's my hose for the tank vent. And since how I siliconed it, it's going to slide on there fairly easy. Got that dude back on there. Then the next thing is the fuel gauge wires, and that connector is really hard to see down in here, but it has a little release right here, if you can see that guy. So up is locked. That is, down is unlocked and up is locked. So it is currently down, it's unlocked. Take this wire, put it behind here. I'm sorry you can't really see this, but there's just no way to really get it on camera. It's just too tight of quarters. But put it back together, and once you get it back together, push that dude up, and it'll lock it. That's all you gotta do. So that's in place, the fuel tank vent's in place, my tank bolts are all tight. I've got everything done, and I put my seat back on. I'm ready to go riding. So there you go. I hope that helps you.